Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with the one and only lumberjack landlord. We call him Matt. We also call him the Pink Panther, but that's an inside joke. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Would not want to do anything else on a rainy Labor Day day.
Oh, there you go. For people that have been paying attention the last couple of weeks, you talked about an opportunity you were working on potentially with the goal of saving someone's home.
Yes. Yep.
They've basically gotten behind payments. The bank is accelerated, foreclosure process. They started whacking them with fees. Basically you went in to do another deal. You talked to the attorney. The attorney said, "Hey, what do you do?" Blah, blah, blah. And this opportunity came out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up a worksheet that's blank.
Yep.
And I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions.
Sure.
And we're going to see if we can't figure out how I or you might do a deal. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think that we've been talking a lot about it, Mike, and the next 2 to 3 years, I think there's nothing more important to know than creative financing.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're going to show people today is exactly how elite investors do it.
And again, we're going to do it from scratch. So you can see this now. Yeah,
I can. Ooh, that is a daunting blank spreadsheet.
Yeah, I hate blank spreadsheets. So I don't want to put out too much information. So we'll just call this 123 Main Street.
Yep.
The address doesn't matter. So what do we think the value of this property is?
So, what's interesting about this case is that because they've been going through this process, they actually got an appraisal. The appraisal was done back in March of this year. So as you know, we've seen added appreciation since March, but maybe net level. But where we're at now is that value was $285.
All right, so $285,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tell me about the debt that's on the property now. It's probably got a mortgage, maybe a second or something.
Yeah, currently there's a mortgage on the property.
So a first mortgage.
Yep. The balance of that first mortgage is $75,000.
All right, so 75 grand. Okay. Any other debt?
There is a HELOC on the property.
Okay.
With an additional $27,000. And then it looks like there's some sort of there's a stacks of fees and other stuff that's there. And so I want to call that number 40 grand.
Okay.
Because that's what it looks like on paper.
Okay. All right, let me again, I'm building literally this from scratch.
So yeah.
I got to put these in dollars or else my accounting brain breaks.
Yes.
Yeah. Then we got to do total debt. Okay.
You're working with an accountant when dot.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right, so they got about 50% equity.
Yep.
These people should not lose their home.
No.
So tell me about the payments. Like so they got behind. What I don't know if it's the payments per se, but what do you think they can afford to pay and still keep their home?
So that's a great question. So they are currently their monthly payments. Currently their monthly payments on the HELOC is about $680 a month on the HELOC. And the mortgage is about $1,500.
Now, does that include property taxes and insurance?
It does. It includes that's a full PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
All right.
So they're at just about a little over $2,100.
Okay. But I got to ask.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like they can afford $2,100 because they got behind, or did they get behind for other reasons?
They actually, so they were fighting with the bank. They were fighting with the bank because they said, we sent in our payment and it was, 3 days late, and they got whacked with like almost $1,000 in fees
For being 3 days late.
Yes.
And that caused a cascading of all these other problems.
Correct.
Freaking banks. So
It's unbelievable, Mike. Like I'm looking at this paperwork and I'm getting angry.
Okay, so their payments are 2180. It sounds like you believe they could pay that.
So they have a monthly, so they're both retired.
Okay, they're on
So
fixed
they're-
income.
Yep, they're on fixed income Social Security,
Okay,
but they also work part-time.
so what is so?
So
what is-
their
what's their
monthly,
monthly income?
yeah, their monthly net income is just under, call it $4,000 a month.
Oh, so that explains why they got in trouble, because that's 50%. Okay. All right. What do you think you would rent the place for if you what's market rent, or fuck market, or forget market rent? What would you charge them rent?
So the idea of this was essentially put them in a position. He said, Matt, we can absolutely afford to pay our mortgage on a monthly basis. He said, we did not get behind because we couldn't make the payment. He said, we got behind because they started playing games with our payment and how they were doing accounting with bills being taken out, how Social Security was going into our account.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, he's like, it's just been a nightmare working with this bank. And he goes,
so I'm going to call, again, just my experience, I'm going to call BS on that.
absolutely fine. Yep. Yep.
So
the attorney,
I don't think they
Okay.
can afford more than $2,000.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
Yep. I think we call it $2,000. And I think I agree with doing that.
Okay.
And yeah, and we go from here.
Okay.
Because here's the other thing there. They've lived in this house for 45 years.
What do they want? They obviously want to stay. That's
Yep.
obvious.
Yep.
But they're also sitting on $140,000 of equity.
Right. Which they, as you can imagine, are extremely scared to tap into because of their experience with this bank.
Okay.
And they're just like, we don't know what to do. So the out here is I do a 50-40-10,
Mm-hmm.
pay off their mortgage. They take a note for 40%, which is all their equity. And I give, or minus the 10% that I pay them.
Yeah. So they get a little jingle money.
Yep. They get a little bit of money in their pocket,
Right.
so, and then on top of that, they stay and they basically do a lease back and they said, we will give you a 10-year. So we talked about terms on the loan. They said, we'll give you 10 years on the loan.
Okay.
They said, what we really want to do is come out of this with a payment that's not higher than our current payment.
Mm-hmm.
They said, we can make that payment. We just don't want a payment that's higher than that payment.
Well, again, I have really good news for them, because if we're going to do this right, their income's actually going to go up.
Exactly. That's exactly all the numbers that I'm doing. I think their income actually goes up. And I think that we drastically are able to reduce their monthly nut.
Okay. All right. So again, I mean, have you done the math on a 50% loan with Velocity? What's the payment roughly?
So yeah, so on a 50% loan, actually give me just 1 second here.
It's got to be like $1,000, $1,100, something like that.
Yeah, I actually had it. Let's see.
50% loan.
I just don't know how to more minimize you.
What interest rate did you assume?
I assumed only 6. When I talked to Stephen Dow, it was 7.25.
Yeah, so that makes
So we're gonna have to recalculate it, but I can give you those recalcs.
I can do it right here. So
Okay.
142 grand. Let's say 145.
Yeah, 7.25%.
145K first, 7.5. No, 7.25. Sorry.
Yep, 7.25.
So the payment, principal interest is $989. What do you think taxes and insurance is on top of that?
So taxes and insurance, I was carrying 1,000 for insurance.
Okay.
And I was carrying for taxes 4,800. So it's basically $400 a month.
All right. So so what I got is $500.
Yep.
On top of that. So let's call it $1,500 payment. Ooh.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, and you want to make profit on this, obviously.
Have to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
have to. Yep.
So for me, again, given the first is 1,500, which includes full PITI, again, just looking at this, I haven't done the math. I don't think I'd want to pay them more than $250 a month.
Yeah,
I don't-
I think the number, so, you know, exactly right. Yeah, I think I think you're right. And I think that that's based on, if we look at my spreadsheet, so I have a spreadsheet of assumptions.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, the good news is you can do it though.
yeah.
Yeah. So again, let's say times 0.04 equals divided by 12. All right. That's too much. So 145 times 0.025. Yeah. So you probably have to pay 2%. So 145 grand times 0.02 equals 12. Yeah. So again, just roughly, again, with the goal of keeping your payment under 250, you could do $145,000,
Yep.
2% interest,
Yep.
interest only,
Yep.
due in 10.
Yep.
You're going to be sending them a payment for $241.66.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. I would do that deal.
And then it's just 28,000. Well, so it's 28,000 bucks out of pocket,
Yeah, exactly.
probably
So,
35 with closing costs.
yeah, let's call it 35.
Yep.
So you're out of pocket 35 grand. Actually, what's that? So let's call it 250. That's 3 grand, right? Times 12.
Yep.
Yeah, 3 grand. So you're making $3,000 a month divided by 30 grand. Oh, it's 10%. So
Right.
in your world, let's be clear, this is not an amazing deal.
Nope.
Not an amazing deal.
Nope.
You're giving them a break on rent. Do you think it's actually worth 2,000 rent?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You can definitely, I mean, it's still a 3-2 house.
What would you rent it for if it wasn't to them? What would you put it on the market at?
I'd probably, it would rent pretty easily for 2250, I think.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so really, this is not an amazing deal.
Nope.
However, I think this is still a deal you do. You should do.
Yep.
You have to do, assuming you could get all these things right. And the reason I say that is you and I have come to a point where we've built up a portfolio where it takes care of our necessities.
Yes.
This allows you and I to do deals that kind of fill the emotional quota.
Yes.
Right? We're not losing money.
That's right.
We don't do deal. We never do alligators ever.
That's right.
But sometimes you get into a situation where you do a deal because it's the right thing to do.
Sure.
And this feels like one of those situations.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think that, I mean, the bank has just got them over a barrel. And
so the other thing I would do in this situation, because you're such a badass sales guy,
yeah,
is assuming you could get this deal inked,
yeah.
I would go in and I would go after those penalties and fees.
Oh, 100%.
And I would get those cut or reduced, and I would use an attorney.
Yep. So there's already attorney in the mix. It's their attorney.
Yeah.
This attorney that's in the mix has tried to do a chapter 13. He's had to do 2 stays.
Yeah.
To get the bank to stop being so aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's very hard in the process. They were going through the process of potentially doing a reverse mortgage.
Ugh.
And I just told him, I said, you're going to wipe out all of the equity in that house in about 4 years, maybe 5.
Yeah.
Maybe 6.
This is a better option. You know, the other thing you could do, because they're going to walk away with some money in their pocket. Again, these are just things I think about.
Yeah.
The other thing I would do is let's pay your first year out of escrow.
Okay.
Let's remove all rent payments for a year or maybe 6 months, whatever makes sense. Basically, you've been living under stress.
Yeah.
Let's remove some of that by, prepaying 3, 6, 9 months again to let them breathe a little bit. I think that's something else I would do.
I agree with you. I think that because I still want them to come out of it with having a great situation.
Mhm.
one that they can decompress, one
Exactly.
that they've actually turned into a bank instead of having to fight with a bank.
Mhm.
And then it's really truly the other thing too is that they're going to take care of the lawn maintenance, the snow
It's
blowing.
their home. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The other thing you
Exactly.
need to insert in the second is something called first right of refusal.
Yep.
So what is that? So these folks, history says one of them is going to die first.
Sure.
What often happens in that situation is the surviving spouse sells the note.
Yeah.
So you want to add a clause that says you reserve the first right of refusal. So if they go off to sell the 142 note and they get a price of 117, you have the decision to match it or not.
Yep.
Yeah, I would insert that.
Yep. I agree 100%.
Let me look at this more, make sure I feel okay. Yeah, you got to get those fees and penalties whacked. That could be more money for them.
Yep.
And really for me, those fees and penalties whacked, that's where I would take the payment. Like if you have that 40K cut in half, I would use that savings to prepay a year of interest or a year of rent.
Year of rent. Yeah. I agree.
All of that. I mean, that way they're not left in a different spot than they expect, but now they have a free year. Right? Talk about building your savings, getting right with yourself. Again, not an amazing deal. 10% in your market's not a deal you sniff.
Nope.
But I think it's a deal you have to try to do.
I think so. I mean, they're retired folks.
Yeah, I mean, just
they
for
don't have any
example,
other option.
yeah, just for example, something I did in this situation. So during I think it was 20, it might have been 2021. I bought a 4 or 5 houses from one seller, and one of them was clearly the runt of the litter. Right, small house, built bad, back a lot versus front. It was just all like everything wrong with the property was wrong. But when you buy a package, you get everything.
Yeah.
So 4 of them I cleaned up, flipped, did well. But this last one is like, this isn't going to be a flip. This is I have a problem, right? I could wholesale, I could do this or that. But we find out that the people living there are living on fixed payments. Same idea.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, they've been asked to live in an environment that I wouldn't ask my dogs to live in. It was bad. So this was one of those opportunities where we did the right thing. So this little house, I think it's 700 square feet, 712, something like that. We go in with the same crew that I did my flips with, and we did everything we do with our flips: linoleum floor, tile showers, new kitchen, everything, new bathroom. We spend about $28,000 because it's small. Now it's a beautiful house. I could easily rent it for like $1,250. It's like a 1-bedroom with a small den. It's not big enough to be called a second bedroom. It's just a couple. It's an older couple, and they're at the time paying $650.
Wow.
For a $1,250 area. I rented. After conversations, after doing all the right things, I signed a 2-year lease at $695. Not because it's a good deal, but because
we can.
Because I can. It was one of those situations. I'm like, I can't help everybody, but I can help them.
That's right.
Yeah. So I won't sell that. I will not sell that property, even though I could sell it today, until they, frankly, until they pass. I don't know how else to say that. And I'm going to keep the rents ridiculously low because I can't tell everybody, but I can help them. So
that's right.
I think that's one of these situations.
It 100% is. I mean, this is a deal. I don't buy single family homes.
Yeah, exactly. When was the last time you done? Yeah, exactly. But
I don't buy them. I don't like them. They don't cash flow. Even this one, it's a bunch of special terms and extra work on my part to make this deal work.
Yeah, you have a lot of work ahead of you to make this happen.
I do. And it's really just about helping these folks out and trying to keep them in their home. They've been there for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
You do it when you can.
You can't help everybody, but you can help them. So Lumberjack, I wish you nothing but luck. I think there is a deal there. It's not an alligator. It's not an amazing deal for you.
Yep.
But I think everybody who watches this will agree. Tell Matt below, should he do this deal? Yes or no? Leave comments right now. We want to hear from you. Lumberjack, where can people find you?
They can find me on Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and Instagram. And we're doing a lot of daily updates now because we got a lot of projects going on before the winter time.
There you go.
It's going to get cold here fast. And then you can check me on my live stream, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time on Sundays.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.